Hi, this is Brad Weisman of The Brad Weisman Show. I want to wish you and your family a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thanks for listening in 2025, and we hope you'll be back in 2026. Happy New Year.
From real estate
affects the market as a whole, which then sometimes will affect the 10-year.
Right. Come in.
to real life.
We all learn in different ways. If you think about it, Wayne Dyer might not attract everybody.
And everything in between.
Mission was really to help people just to reach their full potential.
The Brad Weisman Show. And now, your host, Brad Weisman.
All right, here we go. Another show.
Yes, baby.
Thanks for joining us every Thursday at 7 p.m. to check out the show. We really appreciate it. We know that you have a lot of things you could listen to, and you're listening to us, and we really appreciate that. We also want to bring up our sponsors, First Response Contracting, John Sellers. Thanks for sponsoring the show, and also Comfort Pro. They do HVAC and all kinds of stuff. We want to thank them for sponsoring the show, too. But we have another amazing guest, Hugo.
All right.
We are just really blessed with just amazing guests. They're finding me, or we're finding them, and it's just been great.
Keeps getting better and better.
Better and better. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, we have a guy. His name is Dan Tocchini. I almost said his name wrong, but he's going to be talking to us about all kinds of stuff. Difficult conversations is one of the things. Talks about conflict is the yellow brick road to success, which I thought was an interesting comment. But I'm going to just say a little bit about him, and then we'll bring him on here. He's a transformational leadership coach and strategist who has been spent 35 plus years helping startup founders, executives, and high performers face their blind spots, overcome limiting beliefs, and lead with courage. This is good. His story is packed with interesting people energy. He's worked everywhere from Silicon Valley boardrooms to war-torn communities, guiding leaders through chaos, helping them turn breakdowns into breakthroughs.
All right.
Pretty cool, right? So let's talk to Dan. We got a lot of stuff to talk about.
There you go.
Hey, Dan, how you doing?
Good, Brad. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. I love the hat, dude.
Oh, well, I'm bald, so this is my hair.
Oh, that's your hair? Wow.
My hair.
It's a little different. And the glasses, too. You have like a cool look going on.
Oh, thanks.
You look like you just got off a Harley or something like that, actually, maybe.
Yeah, I wish. My wife would never let me have a Harley.
So you listen to her, I guess, pretty well.
I'm a bit accident prone, so she's had enough of the hospital visits and has restricted me to certain activities.
Right. So you're allowed to play pickleball maybe or something? I don't know.
I ride a bike mostly indoor.
Oh, that's cool.
6-7 days a week. I might ride about 100 miles a week.
Wow.
And then I get out. When I go Northern California, I take my bike out and get out on the roads in the winery. Wine
Napa. You talk about Napa and Sonoma up there?
Napa, Sonoma. Yeah. I used to live in Hillsburg.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's beautiful up there. So you're from California. I was going to ask that question. Or you're living in California?
I live in Idaho. I'm a political refugee up here in Idaho. And I come from, I grew up in California, Northern California, Petaluma, Santa Rosa, Hillsburg area.
Cool. So you're in Idaho now. That's interesting. That's very interesting. Yeah, so let's dig in here with all kinds of stuff. You're an interesting guy. I was looking at you on Instagram for the past couple of weeks. I've been looking at your website, checking out different podcasts you've been on, and you're definitely an interesting guy. You get some great messages, great quotes, very unique in your delivery on how you look at things. So I just like to go through quotes and things that I saw. So one of them is conflict is the yellow brick road to success. That hit me. You're really good at coaching people through conflict. I noticed that on some of the things that I read about you. So tell me, what does that mean? It's the yellow brick road to success. How's that possible?
Whenever you make a commitment to get anything done, you're going to, you have no commitments. You have no conflict till you make a commitment. The minute you make a commitment, everything that's there to stop you becomes the potential conflict. Yeah. So, if you and I are sitting in a room and we're just chatting, no big deal. But if I say, hey, I'm going to get out of this room in 3 seconds, then everything between me and the door, I have to navigate. And most people, when they make a commitment, are stunned at the conflict that comes out of it. Particularly if you have a pretty diverse team that thinks diversely, your first objective is to get them aligned. And if you've unilaterally set this goal, you're going to have more of an uphill battle than if you get clear about what you want the outcome to be, and then you collaborate about how to get there.
Yeah.
And even then, but you're gonna have different types of conflict. Things people aren't gonna want to do what you want to do, or they may think it's better to go another way. They may not like what's going on. They may have it may flush issues up they have with you. There's a million different things that come to the surface, and you got to be ready. And it's a yellow brick road, because the more you actually break through or resolve or the alignment starts to occur, because their objections, the conflicts you face, will cause you to clarify who you need to be or become in the process. And it'll begin to pull out of you conversations you didn't know you needed to have. And you better be ready to resource yourself and those around you in a way that if you're going to be unilateral about it, you're just going to probably get drug under the bus, and you're going to feel despair and resistance and think, oh, what the hell? What am I can't find people who want to follow me. That's usually what I hear. There's just not good people out there. But it relates to how you engage what you're up to, how useful the conflict will be. I mean, the guy who used to have Procter & Gamble, anyway, I read his book years ago, and he said, he was asked, how do you know if you had a successful day? And he said, by the number of conflicts I navigated successfully. I want to have days, I want my day full of me working with teams, my team to resolve things. And the more we do that, the more I know the ball's moving down the field. Knowing which conflicts to focus on and which ones to let sit is part of it as well. So, yeah. But it is definitely the obstacle is the way, the old Stoic says.
Yeah. The obstacles. That's so true. Yeah. Otherwise, because the easy way never gets you anywhere. I mean,
whatever you avoid is going to eventually defeat you. So you might as well get to it quickly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Good. That's great. And some of the other stuff I saw in here was from breakdown to breakthrough, the art of turning failures into foundations for growth. Obviously, every industry, every business, even relationships have breakdowns, but you got to get through it and make it a breakthrough. So tell me your opinions on that, or what you teach on that.
That's a mindset issue. So, naturally built into your biology, you have a survival mechanism. I mean, your body is programmed to keep itself alive, and it's got two mandates: keep the spacesuit alive, and the second mandate is save energy in case it's needed to keep the spacesuit alive.
Right.
So breakdown comes what people tend to do naturally, because a breakdown means things aren't going as planned.
Right.
It looks like they're not going to happen, or they're going to go in a direction that isn't fruitful, etc. So the brain goes to, there must be something wrong, bad, or broken with it, them, or me. And the problem with that is it's a lie. It's a survival mechanism that's useful in the wilderness, or, when you're under attack, you want to be quick to do something to resolve it or to protect yourself. But we naturally go there. Our amygdala kicks in. And so what we work with people to do is to notice when that comes up, notice when you get thrown into there's something wrong, bad, or broken with it, whatever the project is, them, whoever you're working with, or yourself. That's a death spiral, because really there's nothing wrong at all. The system's set up to produce the results it's getting. If you can accept that, then you can embrace the results, particularly if they're not what you think. And then you can ask yourself what's working, what's not working, and what's missing. If you can identify what's missing in the context of your vision, then you can discover what's wanted and needed, and then you know exactly how to stand, where to look, the kinds of requests you need to make. They can be powerful, they can be direct to what's wanted and needed. And it keeps you from personalizing the breakdown or projecting it onto somebody else as if it's somebody's fault.
Yeah.
Really work hard with people with teams when we work with them to get off of, blame, shame, and credit. Those are the three they're dangerous. Instead, we want to move to, blame, shame, and credit are all focused in the past.
Yeah.
And they're all after looking for more, better, or different. everything's past oriented, because you can't know if something's more, better, or different unless you look at the past and see what you got. What we're asking is saying, well, what if you looked at it and said, this is the future I'm committed to, never had it before, but I know this is what I want. Based on that future, what's working? Based on that future, what's not working? Based on that future, what's missing, and what's wanted, needed that I can provide or become a force to provide with the team and the resources I have available.
Yeah.
That's the way you transform a breakdown into an opportunity or a possibility.
The one that was interesting you said shame or credit. So blame is I'm shaming myself.
And
then the credit, though, you're taking credit.
Blame is I'm blaming you.
Right.
Shame is I'm blaming myself.
Right.
And credit is I'm giving you or me credit.
Right. That's what I thought. Yeah. That's interesting. So, because the two are kind of like, not good, but the credit one's like,
Yeah, we all want to get credit.
Yeah, of course. We'll get credit for it.
The problem with if you give credit, then
somebody's losing.
It's not really, it's like, there's a couple things with it. One is it personalizes the result. Like I can acknowledge you for what you've done, the contribution you made,
right?
But I don't give credit to anybody. I get the credit to the team. Okay, good. You know what? Have you ever skateboarded or skied or something like that?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Right. So you don't get credit for doing half a trick or being able. It's like it doesn't make sense.
Right.
You either did it or you didn't. And if you did, let's acknowledge that because it's bringing the future forward. But the more we personalize things, the more we make it about people, about myself, the more the psychology kicks in. It becomes an identity issue.
Gotcha.
So when something breaks down, then I've got to blame somebody because hell, I got credit for it last time.
Right. Oh, that's so true. Never thought of it that way.
It creates a polarization.
Right. So you're setting precedents for the future of somebody's going to either get blamed or get credit. Hey guys, I want to take a second and thank Comfort Pro. Since 2001, Comfort Pro has been helping customers stay comfortable where they live, work, and play. They have 24/7 emergency service and a 100% customer satisfaction guarantee. If you need help with your heating and air conditioning or indoor air quality, call Comfort Pro at 484-917-1803. Mention the show and receive a free humidifier with the installation of a complete system.
Yeah, and instead of that, like what worked, what didn't work, and congratulations to everybody. Now, what's next?
Yeah, let's move on.
What's next?
Yeah, interesting, very interesting, different way to look at it. And this one was interesting. You were talking to somebody on a podcast, and I heard you talk about a good argument versus a bad argument, which I've never heard anybody say that before. So, can you explain like the difference between a good argument and a bad argument?
Now, I don't know what I said on that podcast, but I'll tell you what the logic is behind it. Right? There's a logical structure. A good argument follows a valid reasoning, where the conclusion actually follows from the premises that one sets up. For example, in deductive arguments, if the premises are true, then the conclusion has got to be true. A bad argument contains logical fallacies or errors in reasoning. So being able to identify errors in reasoning is a big deal, or gaps that break the link between the premise and the conclusion. Well, you take an extreme situation it's at the extremes, and then you slay it, and then you think you've beat the other guy's argument, or you do ad hominem, which is you attack their character, or you do something dramatic. And that's usually what destroys an argument, makes it a bad argument.
Yeah.
And then if you have to defend what you're saying without listening, if you can't hear it, and then be able to engage the person in a logic or identify where the logic, goes in a different direction, then what I like to do is understand them fully.
Yeah.
I can't understand what you say. If I can't take your side and see it, I probably don't have a great argument. Because I'm not willing to learn from what you see, at least how to frame my argument in your concerns or your interests.
Yeah.
So hearing somebody out, being able to hear it without being hooked, you know what I mean by hooked, like reacting and attacking. There's a number of things I can listen for that okay, if it's, let's say, a logical error, then I can, if it's a logical error, I should be able to slow the argument down, ask them what the premise it's built on, and then have them notice, does what you're saying line up with that premise, or are you using some extreme examples so that you can make a point like a gotcha, right? Instead of win me over to your logic. And unfortunately, most people, just in our culture, it's kind of sad. Most people aren't interested in the truth, or at least, the angles, what could possibly be true. Right. They're more interested in either their political or religious or personal view, and they're not really looking to find anything out. They're just looking to prove themselves right. And that's a bad argument too. So if I get hooked into something where somebody's just proven to be right, I'll just, I'll let them be right. What am I going to do? If they're not willing to listen and they're not willing to consider my perspective, then it's the old saying of wipe the dust off your shoes and move on. Yeah. But I like to I'll vet it to understand where they're coming from.
Yeah. And you had mentioned too, when you were talking about that, you said that the fact that you're in an argument means that you actually have passion about the subject. So you actually both actually care about something together. Yeah. And which I thought was interesting.
That can usually level some of the heat.
Right. Because if you're in this argument, that means that there's passion about this common subject, and actually that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Yeah. We just got to be able to figure out the how we can work it out between the two people.
I can respect your point of view. Like I just had a good argument with a guy online.
Good argument. That sounds funny when I had a good argument with somebody. That's funny.
He's a friend of mine, and he was disturbed that I was basically saying, since we established the Department of Education, education's gone downhill. And he said correlation is not, proof. I said, of course it's not. But $1 trillion, we can say that at least they didn't get anything done. They certainly didn't stop the decline.
Well, we can also say that money was not the solvent.
Wasn't the solver.
Yeah.
And my point to him was, he came back and said, well, what about people? He brought up this professor who had a group of students in an engineering class, and without these grants from the government, well, the class would fail. I said, well, not necessarily. Here's what do you mean? I said, well, what if he could identify the value of his class to the different industrial or commercial concerns that are going to benefit from it? Then he could go out and raise money for the class and work some program where they're going to be happy to do that. It's a write-off, et cetera. But those are things that, I'm a big proponent for the individual, and let's turn things back to the private sector, and let's get the antitrust laws back in place, and let's get the government out of our lives, and let's make small government, because there's a lot of really bright people who would excel.
Yeah.
And it really, it was a good conversation because there was no name calling.
Yeah.
There was no, guy's a great guy. I love him. I understand his point of view. He's a musician and an artist, and he has a more liberal, if you will, view, and I can respect it. When some guy makes some smart-ass remark towards him, and I love what this guy's response was. We managed to get through a very complex conversation here without throwing any ad hominem, and you come along out of nowhere and you want to stir it up. I said, right on. I was with him on that.
Well, it is funny that we have a lot more in common. We actually, most people, when you look at those things, when you get into those topics, everybody wants the same result. We want the same result. We just have different ideas on how to get there. I mean, that's really what it's about. It's not about us having a different idea of something. We have the same, we know where we want to get to. It's different ways of getting there. That's all.
Yeah. And if you want to shut up the opposite side, well, then you're the very thing you hate, the thing you're trying to eliminate.
Yeah. So true.
I enjoy it. Every time I get in a good argument, it causes me to think. And if somebody pulls something out I can't handle, that's great. I have to go think about it and research it.
Yeah, research it. It actually, it makes your opinion even more solid then at that point, because then you can actually get something behind it to prove your point, or to, substantiate your point, not prove it. Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. I'm on the same page with you there. Let's go into one of the quotes that you had too that I thought was really cool. You were on a podcast and you mentioned this. It was actually a recent one. Whenever you find yourself defensive, ask yourself what could be true about what they are saying. That was actually really cool because we do find ourselves defensive a lot in conversations or whatever.
I can say I do.
Yeah, and so it says ask yourself what could be true about what they're saying. So it's like take a moment and listen, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. I just had I've been with my wife for 50 years. And
oh wow, good for you.
We had a pretty good knockdown drag out. It was about, it went on for about 10 minutes. That's a long one for us. And, she got mad at me and said, take me home. And I said, hey, tell me what I did. She goes, you were mean. You were mean to me. And you were defensive and you attacked me. And the way you talked to me was demeaning.
Ooh, yeah.
And I thought about it. And I said, well, you're right. Well, why did you do that? And I said, well, because I'm insecure. And I think you were touching on something, I wasn't prepared to talk about because, I didn't know what to say. And rather than say, I'm not ready to talk about it, I'm still thinking about it.
Yeah.
You pressed in and I reacted. So I asked her to forgive me. And it was so interesting because I thought, oh God, how long am I going to pay for this? That was my thought. And then she looked at me and she said, I love it when you do this. It's rare you do this. And when you do, it makes me remember why I love you. And I was like,
that's cool.
That's not what's supposed to be coming.
Yeah. That's cool.
I'm projecting the Wicked Witch, the West is coming next.
Hey, all I can tell you, don't eat her dinner. If she makes you dinner, I would not eat it. Get somebody to taste it first.
That's right.
Oh, that's funny. That's really funny. Well, but that's why you're together as long as you are, because you can admit you were wrong and that you screwed up and whatever, and that's very important. Very important. Yeah, so that's an interesting. So is that where the self-defense thing came from? Is it from your wife, obviously?
Well, my wife, and she would tell me, Dan, with your partners, I see you sometimes do this. You, rather than listen, you just want to make them wrong, and you either talk down at them, talk down to them like you know more. You get arrogant. You're insecure, so you make it look like you're really confident instead of just unplugging and let them seeing what you're read, like what you're not sure about. You don't know. If you don't know, it's been very helpful. Especially, I have multiple partners in multiple businesses, and they're all very different, and I love them all, and we have really good relationships. But I think a lot of it's not just I'm willing to do that, but so are they. They're all pretty willing to pull out the stops. But if somebody says something, we listen well together. We don't argue much. When we do, it's more using logic and a vision. Like, we're going after something and we're using that as the plumb line. Works out pretty well. But if it should break out into insecurity like I can usually catch myself. And that's why, because she's helped me hug the cactus, if you will.
Yeah, I've heard you say that a couple of times in your in the things I was listening to. The hug the cactus. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? Because it's actually an interesting term. Is that your term, or did somebody else come up with that?
I learned. It's funny. I've been saying it since I was about the third grade. I had a priest. I went to Catholic school, a Jesuit priest who used to say, your successes and your strengths are for others to talk about, and your failures are for you to talk about. And so it's best if you can hug the cactus long enough to know what those are, because they'll only strengthen you. And he was a Jungian. By the time I was in 8th grade, he was talking to us about Jung and doing shadow work. And I really took to it. It really made a difference for me.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Yeah, I never heard that term before, hug the cactus. It's kind of funny. But
the desert fathers it came from.
Yeah. Well, we don't have cactus around here, so it's just a different term.
Where are you at?
We're here in Reading, Pennsylvania. We're outside of Philadelphia, so we're like I'd say an hour and 20 minutes northwest of Philadelphia.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I come out there often.
Yeah, we got good cheesesteaks down around this area. We got all kinds of good stuff. Yeah, it's good. It's actually a really nice area. It really is. And then I like this one too. Honesty paves the way to uncover the truth. My honesty might not always mirror the truth, but it's the first step towards finding it, especially if I'm open to having my views questioned. Embrace honesty as the compass in your quest for truth.
Right.
That was something that you said that I thought was really interesting. The honesty paves the way to uncover my truth. Uncover the truth. That's interesting.
Yeah. Honest means in Latin, one with what is for you personally.
Oh, okay.
So what's true for me may not be what's truly going on. But if I speak to you what's true for me, be honest.
Oh, wow.
It'll probably provoke you to, if you see something different, to say so. It'll surface what needs to be seen. Yeah. And the idea, most people tend to cover up what's honest because they don't want to be thought poorly of. But, that's the risk you take if you want to get something done. And if you're not willing to do that, then you're going to slow down the loop that, the loop that occurs that causes something to happen. I send over communication, you send something back. And if I send an honest communication over and you respond honestly, then the rate of motion of getting to the truth is accelerated.
Oh,
but
wow.
if I pretend and speak around it and try to say things you need to hear, or I think you need to hear to accept me, my aim now isn't the truth. It's you accepting me. I change my aim. So the hierarchy of concerns that I'm going to stand in or have dominate my listening, right? Because we are biological, we're listening for certain things. So if I'm aiming at being accepted, I listen for a different set of language, different set of distinctions than if I'm aiming at what's true, what's real here, right?
That's really interesting. Yeah, because you're changing the end game. You're changing what we're actually going for, as opposed to So if I send you something and it's an honest comment or honest thing, and then you send back something that's not honest, it's going to take longer to get to the truth.
That's right. It's going
to. Man, that's really cool.
Why it takes so long. That's why executives will say, "Well, I just don't have time for a conversation with her because it'll take forever." No, it won't.
Yeah,
it only takes as long as you're willing. If you're not willing to get straight and honest, especially if you're the founder or the executive and you're talking to somebody else in the organization that works with you, if you get honest, they'll tend to get honest right back. And if they don't, you'll sniff it. And you can invite them into it. You can invite them into saying what they're not saying. And we all know when somebody's harboring something if we stop and listen.
Yeah.
Unless all we're concerned with is getting our way, then we won't know. We're going to be surprised about who's undermining the project. We're not going to understand why, and we're going to be surprised who it is because we haven't paid attention up until that point.
Right. Yeah, that's really good. It's an interesting take on that. It really is. And then to wrap it up, I want to talk to you. This is something that I think in every business or in anything that people do, whether it's relationships or business or teamwork or anything, the topic of difficult conversations.
Yeah.
I think everybody tries to avoid them. We procrastinate, and then what happens is that the conversation probably gets even more difficult because it wasn't addressed when it should have been. What is
penalties and interest?
Yeah. So what's your take on that? How do you deal with having difficult conversations? How do you prepare for that?
Again, it's a mindset issue, and then most people don't want to have them because they don't believe they can get beyond where they're at. And they're not confident in their ability to find what's wanted and needed. So they try to avoid it.
Yeah.
And that's where I said, look, what you're not willing to face now will ultimately defeat you. And so that's the idea, is first to understand, if I don't have this conversation, what future is attached to it? Every conversation has a future attached to it. So if I come and sit down with you and I have an inauthentic discussion about something that's peripheral to what I really want to talk about, there's a future attached to that. Sooner or later, something's going to happen. I'll never forget my wife many, many years ago, 45 years ago, was starting a daycare, and it was called the Happy Landing Daycare. And she would take 12 kids in. I had my 2 kids and 10 more. I'll never forget, I was getting ready for work and I could hear her talking to a new client, and she was complaining about the daycare she just left to come to ours. And my wife was all excited. And so the lady left and she comes running in and she says, "I got a new client." I said, "That is not a good client." She goes, "What do you mean?" I go, You will soon be the lady down the street if you don't get clear about what was missing for her and what didn't work for her. And notice if she takes any responsibility for what she contributed to it, because otherwise the pattern will show up and you will react in a way that makes her right. And no, she got mad at me and went back and took the client on 3 months later. It came up and that we laugh about that a lot. Because from that moment on, she's like, okay, Mr. Wizard, how did you know that was going to happen? I said, well, I'm just listening. That's the way she's relating to you is going to repeat itself because she's blaming everything, externalizing everything. So she has no power in the situation. And when the thing comes up here, she's not going to have any power because she's still got it left over there. So she's going to do the same thing. She's going to run, blame you, and be right and move on. And if you can notice that, then that's a great onboarding tool.
Yeah.
Right? That's what we were doing. So we started onboarding. She started being very specific about how she onboarded. And it wasn't that because they left somewhere. It's like, how much of it did they own? How willing were they to look at, this wasn't a match and I didn't care to look at it, and whatever their part was in it. Not that they're to blame, but they had something to do with it if it didn't work out. What conversations did they miss? And that works all the way through business.
Absolutely. I know that to be so true. If somebody tells you a story, it has to do with also with when you're dating, before you get married or something like that. When the girl's telling you all about the husband that he did this, this, and this, or the boyfriend did this, this, and this, I can tell you right now, you're going to be talked about that way in about 3-4 months to a year. So if you don't address that if you don't address what she's having issue with, you're going to be the person the next time.
Yeah, well, we end up with a lot of clients. Our clients will have us. They like our work so much they want to bring it to their family.
Yeah.
Or they get up against it with their spouse, man or woman, and they'll invite us in to say, "Look, can you work with us on this?"
Yeah.
And a lot of it has to do with, like, I'll ask them, "When was the last time you believed something was right? You were so certain it was right, and you found out it wasn't." And if they can't give me 1 or 2 instances, I know there's some work to do here. Right? Do we really want to get in bed with this person?
Yeah. Sounds weird when you're talking about working with families.
Oh yeah, there you go. Sorry. Yeah, we're a little kinky.
Probably a word you'd want to change if you're talking about coaching families.
Do we want to have dinner with these people?
Yes, there you go. That's a little better. Oh my gosh. Well, good conversation. Is there anything else you want to bring up, like about your company, what you guys do before we wrap this up? And I also, you have this ebook that I'm going to be reading. Actually, it's called The Change Imperative. If you want to tell us a little bit about that, and then also tell us about how we get in touch with you with your company, and we'll part ways.
Yeah, Change Imperative. I wrote it many, many years ago when I was doing some work with ESPN. They were being bought up by Disney, and there was a lot of conflict. Disney was a union house, and ESPN was a right to work house, and the MOU had allowed them to stay that way for however long, and there were some problems. So I was working with a lot of their executives on how to strategize and anticipate the conflict and be able to deal with it, navigate it in a way that would move people. Because in a breakdown, when you have a change, you have about 20-25% of the people are on board, let's go. Mm-hmm. You got another 30% of the people, 40% of the people that are on the fence. And you got about 20 or 30% that are not going. They don't want to move.
Wow.
And if you've got to find strategies to move the fence sitters to the positive side, get on board, and how you deal with what I call the levelers, the ones who want to level the change and keep things the way they are, has a lot to do with winning the fence sitters over.
Oh, interesting.
So that it's called the change imperative, because change is going to happen. It's imperative. It's the constant.
Yep.
So best get used to it. And we have a lot of frameworks to help people think through hard, difficult conversations that arise when you produce a change, or any change in the organization. And you got to be prepared. So one, you want to understand the ground. It's going to get worse before it gets better. Right. So when you see it get worse, that's actually not a bad thing. That's a good thing. Now, how are you going to handle that? And, who are the influencers you can persuade that will move multiple people? Whenever you look at a group of people, whenever you walk in front of a group of people, if you're going to be speaking, people have natural gravitas. People follow them naturally. If you can identify them in the room and you move them, people move with them. And so you've got to have conversations that'll open up possibility that they will choose in on. And if they don't, well, you're not going to move the room. You're not going to move the group. So knowing who that is on your team is important. Who are the levelers? Who's on board? Who's on the fence? The change imperative will help you think about that.
That's cool.
And prepare for it.
And that's free. You go on to, I think you go on to takenewground.com. I think, was it on there or where was that at?
Yes,
I forget. Is that where it was?
Scroll down to I think close to the bottom of the page. And you can put your email in there and we'll send you one.
Yep. I just downloaded it today, which is great. So how do we get a hold of you? Is it through the website, takenewground.com? Is that the best way?
That's a great way. Or you can get me on LinkedIn. Tocchini. I'm on LinkedIn.
You're also on Instagram too. I know. I said if they put your name in, you can find them there too. So we're going to say takenewground.com is the best way to get in touch with you. That's correct?
Yes.
Excellent. And also you said there was another place you said that we could find you. It was on LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
And just search your name?
Search my name, Dan Tocchini.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dan, for being on the show. I really appreciate it. All right, there you have it. Dan Tocchini. There you go. TakeNewGround.com. Unbelievable. He's got a free ebook, too, to check out. It's called The Change Imperative. If you like the stuff we talked about, you definitely want to download that ebook because it's really good stuff. That's about it. Thanks for watching us every Thursday at 7 p.m. All right, that's it. See you. Are your kitchen and bathroom way overdue for a remodel? Well, I got the guy for you. Call John Sellers at First Response Contracting, 484-256-7136. Both residential and commercial services, and he's licensed and insured. Call him at 484-256-7136. First Response Contracting.